Our next speaker is Dr. Kelly Martin. She's a chiropractic physician who specializes in bioidentical hormone counseling for women. She's going to speak to us today on the benefits of bioidentical hormones. Please help me welcome Dr. Kelly Martin.
Thank you, Sheryl, and thank you to Tony and Felicia for giving us this platform to even speak on all these wonderful alternative wellness things. Did each of you get a little lecture guide here? Pat, do you mind? Thank you. I hand these out for two reasons. One, so you'll have something to take home with you, and the other, so you'll look less at me. So, the topic for these few minutes is what are the benefits of bioidentical hormones? And to even launch that subject, if you'll open to the first page, let's just look at what a normal female cycle looks like. In a woman that's cycling and most likely in her reproductive years. And I've taken these cute little artistic drawings from my wonderful friend Pat O'Connell's book, which has become a Bible for me as far as hormones go. And it's called What Part of Menopause Don't You Understand? And Pat and I both are sharing a booth against the windows inside. So if you're interested, this is a very valuable tool. But anyway, if we look at that first drawing, I particularly want you to pay attention to estrogen, which is the dotted line, and progesterone, which is the darker solid black line. In a normal female cycle, if you'll notice, if day one is the first day of menstruation, the estrogen is low, and then it comes up and it peaks around day 14, which if your estrogen gets high enough and your FSH is high enough, then you'll actually, and you have eggs to release, you'll release an egg, which is called ovulation. Now, if you ovulate, the progesterone will surge, which is the dark line. So note that it stays low until after day 14, and then you'll see a surge of progesterone. So that's what a normal cycle looks like. And then if we go down to what does a menopausal cycle look like, you'll see that the estrogen, which is the dotted line, is really low all through the month, and the progesterone's even lower, the darker line. And just that would bring up a natural question, well, what does a premenopausal cycle look like? And basically, Pat, you need to provide that in your next book. If you look at the upper chart here, what a premenopausal cycle will look like is sometimes you'll get the peak of estrogen and the surge of progesterone, but sometimes you may have a cycle where you don't ovulate. And so the reason that happens is your estrogen didn't get high enough along with FSH, or maybe you just can't release any eggs anymore, whatever the reason might be. So in relationship to your estrogen, your progesterone will basically be flatlined, as represented here on this graph. Does that make sense? So you'll have a surge of progesterone, but your you'll have a surge of estrogen, but in relationship, the progesterone will be flatlined. And that's what causes estrogen dominance. Has anybody heard of that before? That was a big key phrase that Dr. John Lee based lots of his writings on, was estrogen dominance. So anyway, why should we care about bioidentical hormones? Why should we care about maintaining any sort of replication of this as we age? And the point is this: if we die at age 85 or 90 and we go through menopause at 45 or 50, you're looking at 50% of your life being in menopause. basically, and dealing with the degeneration and things that happen once your sex hormones begin to decrease. Okay? So if we look at the next page. Yes? The LH, that stands for luteinizing hormone. And then FSH stands for follicle stimulating hormone. And both of those are pituitary hormones that are sending messages to your reproductive organs to produce more estrogen and progesterone and cause, follicle stimulating hormone stimulates the follicle to release the egg. Luteinizing hormone actually causes, is it the egg to be released or?
It causes the empty follicle after the egg is released to produce progesterone.
Okay. Any other questions? Does that clear it up?
Do those have, is that their actual name, follicle and lutein?
Yeah. So the importance of maintaining a normal cycle is this. Estrogen and progesterone perform a very necessary dance for our bodies to function properly. Estrogen drives over 300 bodily processes and more than 9,000 gene products that are not directly involved in reproduction, but are certainly involved in good health. So once our sex hormones go, we have a choice to make because it just shows how important that estrogen and progesterone are. Yes? It's in the notes. It's the highlighted sentence. So it's important. And if we go down the list here, it's important for neurotransmitters, which manage our mood and our memory and our sleep, for cardiovascular reasons, which directly the heart tissue itself, cholesterol and vessel elasticity, metabolism, the way we utilize our carbs and our fats in our diet, our bone health. It's important for bone turnover and rebuilding. Estrogen actually keeps you from losing bone. Progesterone actually helps you rebuild bone. Okay? Blood sugar and the help with the way we utilize our insulin, and cell replication, which is important in cancer prevention, especially estrogen-driven cancers. Because if you'll note there, the estrogen drives cell replication where progesterone turns off replication and helps weed out bad or harmful cells. So if we go back to what a normal cycle looks like, there's a reason there is a surge of estrogen followed by a surge of progesterone. That's very cancer protective. Okay? So when you're looking at replacing your hormones, I have found that it's best to do it in a way that it mimics Mother Nature as closely as you can. And then borrowed from Pat's book here, these are symptoms of menopause. So if you know anybody, I know no one in this room is suffering from any of this, but if you know someone that could relate to these are the reasons that it might be important to go to a bioidentical hormone. Just run through them real quick. No menstrual periods, hot or cold flashes and night sweats, vaginal dryness, sexual discomfort, insomnia, and fatigue. Just a note on fatigue. The adrenal glands are little tiny glands that sit on top of the kidneys, and they are the backup gland to your ovaries and your sex hormones. And they're also our stress glands. So when we are under a lot of stress, we can wear our adrenal glands out, and thus they cannot help us maintain our sex hormones. So it's something else that needs to be looked at when you're looking at your hormones. low or no sex drive, urinary problems, poor memory or concentration, headaches, weight gain, weight redistribution, heart disease, breast cancer, bone fractures, uterine cancer, uterine fibroids, ovarian cysts, those type things. So, there are two ways, go to the next page. There are two ways to replace depleted hormones. There's the bioidentical version, which exactly matches, it's the very same hormone your body's producing right now as you sit there. You have estradiol, estriol, estrone, progesterone, and testosterone in your body right now. The levels may just be wavering a bit. And Pat's done a great job with this drawing here. It shows you how bioidentical hormones work. And if the structure in the middle is the bioidentical hormone, you'll note how the end of it fits into the human tissue cell. And remember what those cells are? It can be, remember all the 300 processes estrogen helps? And then you'll notice that the enzyme end of it, the hormone will fit nicely into that enzyme, and the enzyme is what's responsible for breaking the hormone down and helping our body dispose of it. So it's safe, it's in your body already. Okay? Now if you go down to the drug hormones or the bioidentical hormones, they're typical in structure to natural hormones, but with added compounds. And why even give a woman something like this? And it comes down to, well, I'll get to that in the next page. That's all right. Yes. The chemical structure of the hormone is altered so that the body uses it like a hormone, but the body doesn't know what to do with the extra compounds. And examples of this are Premarin, Provera, birth control pills, tamoxifen, things like that. And if you'll just notice in the drawing here, the receptor end to the tissue cell is the same. So our body's, that's why Premarin helps with hot flashes and helps you from losing bone density, things like that. But if you look over here towards the enzyme end, it's square and the enzyme end is a piece of pie or a triangle. So this makes it very difficult for our bodies to break down the bioidentical hormones. And if we look to the next page, what I've done here, if you'll look at the bottom, I've actually given you the molecular structure. The one on the left is the molecular structure of estradiol that's in your body already. The one next to it is the molecular structure of Premarin. So all these other compounds you see are basically the square end of the enzyme on the other page. Does that make sense? Okay. So, and then I just, from PDR, the PDR Health website, I just, took note of what Premarin side effects may be, which are abdominal stomach cramps, bloating, breast pain, enlargement, benign tumors of the uterus, which are also called fibroids, fluid retention, hair loss, headache, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, irregular vaginal bleeding or spotting, liver problems, nausea and vomiting, vaginal yeast infections, blah, blah, blah. If you look at the back of when you get a prescription of Premarin or something like that, and you look at the back, and it just lists it all out for you. So what's important to note is that you can get the hormones that your body's producing right now as you sit here. You do not have to rely on the pharmaceutical hormones, okay? So, how do I get bioidentical hormones? Well, first of all, it's very important that you be tested. And I prefer the use of saliva test, because saliva actually, you can test what is bioavailable to the tissues itself. Where in blood test, you're relying on only what's bound to the red blood cells, okay? And I brought a saliva test kit with me. It's it's something that you take home with you, and you do it from the comfort of your own home. It comes with its own FedEx label and envelope. And this particular test is for adrenals and sex hormones. And when I say sex hormones, I mean estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. But what the kit looks like is this. There are 4 little vials in here, and you put 3 milliliters of saliva in there, which is about to my thumb. And you just do it, from the comfort of your own home, and then you ship it off the next day, and the results come back to one of us, and we take care of you that way. So it's really simple and not invasive at all. Any questions on saliva testing? Yes.
Does it matter if you're already on hormones? Is that not?
Yes, it will. But depending on the situation, we can test you on your hormones, or just depends on your situation. But yeah, if you're on hormones, we definitely take that into consideration, because it will show up. Yes?
You may already mentioned this, because I came in late. If you still have a regular cycle, could women still need some tweaking with their hormones?
Absolutely, yes. Because just because you're having a cycle does not mean you're ovulating necessarily.
And about what is the cost of that hormones if you take them monthly?
Take them monthly. If you do them with me, your progesterone costs you $28, and that will last you 4 to 5 months. And your estrogen will cost you $35, and that will last you 1 to 2 months.
Are you modulating the levels, even of how much of that?
Yes. Based on your specific needs. Yeah. Yes.
2 questions. How much is the saliva test to do?
We charge $297 for the adrenal test plus the hormones, because you can test just the sex hormones, and because I never do it, it's less. It's probably closer to half price, but the adrenals are so important to be taken into consideration in your picture that I just really recommend this.
Second question. On that picture between bioidentical and synthetic,
Yes.
what's all the extra stuff on the synthetic one? I mean, am I reading the picture wrong? But it looks like it's almost the same exact thing, except all these other things are added.
Exactly.
Why would you bother to add them?
That's a wonderful question. Yeah.
I'm good with pictures.
Yes.
Why would they have to add stuff?
It's basically this. This structure cannot be patented because it's natural. Okay? This can be patented is what it comes down to. So,
You've answered a lot of questions by answering.
yeah. So, that's a whole nother topic.
I'll stop it.
Yes.
Can you get the bioidentical hormones at a regular pharmacy, or do you have to go to a compounding pharmacy?
You can get bioidentical hormones from a pharmacy. There are a lot of, and that was one of the things that Pat has in her book. She has a quick reference guide at the front of her book that, like, for example, Prometrium or Prometrium is a pill form of bioidentical progesterone.
It's a brand name, so
Yeah.
any doctor can order it from any pharmacy. There's also a patch, several patches for estrogen. I use one. It's a standard brand name product that any doctor can order from any pharmacy.
Yeah.
And is oral medication preferable to transdermal?
I don't think so, and this is why. Once you take something orally, the liver gets involved and starts shooting out sex hormone binding globulin, so that only about 20% of what you took in the first place is even effective. The rest of it's just gook your liver has to dispose of. Okay? So I actually use a sublingual pellet, which goes directly into the bloodstream, and a cream for the progesterone is how I do it. But it can be done numerous ways. Yes?
Do you need to have a test so you know what?
Yes. It just doesn't seem worth it to hit or miss when you could know exactly what you need. Yes?
What are they made out of?
The bioidentical hormones, they are taken from usually plants like yam or soy. There's many phytoestrogens, which means plant-based estrogens. They are taken to a laboratory and made into the bioidentical structure. So they're laboratory, they're processed in a laboratory. The difference is that your body recognizes them as its own. Any other questions? Yes.
One more. How often do you need to be retested?
Well,
You would need to check in occasionally.
yes. Once you've gotten comfortable and your levels are where they need to be for you, I recommend testing annually. It's worth doing to take care of yourself. Yeah. Oh, 5. Okay. Make sure I covered everything. So I prefer saliva. I do both, but I prefer saliva. If you need help with this question, you can find me. I'm at Cocapelli's Wellness Spa. I've left the website there. We're in Frisco. Or your own enlightened physician. And that's where a good book like Pat's book would help you if you choose to educate yourself and then take it to your doctor and do the dance. So in conclusion, the biggest thing I want you to take away from this today is that if you decide you or somebody you love needs hormone replacement therapy, just know that there are safe alternatives available, and bioidentical hormones are easy, affordable, and worth the effort. Okay? So thank you for your attention.